Welcome to Analyst's Estimate. We bridge the gap between Wall Street and Main Street by breaking down complex investment research so you don't have to.
Disclaimer. This podcast is for educational analysis, not financial advice. AI powers much of our research, but AI can make mistakes and data can occasionally be inaccurate. Treat this as a business analysis rather than deep company research. Always do your own due diligence before investing.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are strapping in for a really high-altitude, highly regulated look at the world of aerospace and defense precision engineering in India.
It's a spectacular sector, but a really demanding one. The sources we've gone through today, they confirm we aren't just talking about, standard manufacturing. This is zero-defect, mission-critical stuff.
Right.
These companies, they're the technical backbone for the global giants. Think Boeing, Airbus, GE, Rolls-Royce. They supply these vital parts for, well, everything from jet engines to nuclear facilities.
And our mission today is pretty laser-focused. We've got a stack of sources here comparing three key Indian players in this hyper-specialized space: Azad Engineering, Rossell, and Unimech Aerospace. We really need to dissect what gives them their technical moat, that barrier to entry, and, just as important, where the financial risks are hiding.
That's it. And to keep it simple, you can sort of picture this whole sector as a high-stakes, specialized surgery unit.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, these companies are the key surgeons. Each one has a different specialty, and they all face a different set of financial pressures. We're going to look at the tools they use and, which one is structurally set up for the best long-term success.
A surgery unit. That analogy is perfect. It just captures that zero margin for error environment. So let's define this operating room. What makes this a zero-defect segment?
Well, the first and most formidable barrier is the qualification cycle. It's not about who has the most money. It's about who can wait.
Who can wait?
Exactly. The sources show that to even become a vendor, you're looking at multi-year qualification cycles. We're talking 30 to 48 months.
So up to 4 years. 4 years of testing and auditing before you even get a major contract.
That's it. And that's just the time barrier. Then you have the technical gatekeepers.
Which would be what? Certifications?
That's the one. The absolute gold standard is something called NADCAP process certification. And this isn't some general quality sticker. It's a global accreditation for very specific critical processes.
Like specialized welding, things like that.
Precisely. Specialized welding, heat treatment, non-destructive testing. It proves you have the institutional knowledge, especially when you're dealing with exotic alloys like titanium or those high-performance mnemonic steels they use in engines.
So the ultimate certification moat risk, as the sources call it, is just losing that Tier 1 status.
It's as simple as that. You fail an audit, you face immediate vendor disqualification. It is a completely unforgiving business.
But the rewards, I imagine, are pretty significant.
Oh, they're phenomenal. And that's because the business is so demanding. The margin profile is extremely attractive.
I'll say, looking at the numbers here, gross margins for some of them are pushing, 69%? And the EBITDA margins are really robust, between 30% and 48%.
Right, which reflects the value placed on that complexity and reliability.
Yeah.
But here's the paradox. This is the financial challenge that trips up so many technically brilliant firms.
Oh, yeah.
Despite those huge margins, the cost structure is dominated by raw materials and specialized sensors. That can be anywhere from, say, 22% to 57% of your costs.
And why so high? We're not talking about standard steel here, I take it.
Not at all. We're talking about sourcing bespoke, exotic alloys that require long-term forward contracts, specialized handling.
Right, but the real financial killer isn't the raw material cost itself, it's the working capital lockup.
Ah, yes, the infamous cash conversion cycle.
The ultimate test of operational health in this sector.
It really is. Because they need these huge inventory levels for long-cycle aerospace programs. And remember, the OEM isn't paying you until they get the final validated part. The cash conversion cycles, the CCC, can range wildly from maybe 100 days to over 600 days.
600 days. So for anyone listening, that's almost 2 years where your cash is just tied up. It's sitting there as raw materials or work in progress or just waiting to be paid.
Exactly. You might be charging a huge price for the final product, getting that 69% margin, but you're perpetually starved for the cash you need to run the business day to day.
It's an incredible situation. So we've got this unforgiving operating room demands perfection, but it just eats cash. What about the external pressures? What headwinds are these companies facing?
The sources point to two major risks: and they're both linked to depending on external markets. First, you've got geopolitical dependency.
Meaning exports.
Right. With up to 92% of their business coming from exports, mostly to the U.S. and Europe, they're just so vulnerable to shifting trade policies, tariffs, you name it.
And the second one is customer concentration, I see. This is a very small club.
It is. Revenue is often concentrated across just 3 or 4 major global OEMs, and that gives those huge buyers a lot of leverage over pricing and, crucially, payment terms.
Which brings us right back to the cash conversion cycle.
It all connects. And look, this dependency is exactly why the tailwinds, the opportunities, are so powerful right now. There are these massive forces driving structural growth for Indian suppliers.
And the first is domestic, right? The Indian government's own push.
Precisely. The Make in India initiative, the indigenization policy, is completely reshaping the landscape. The government is earmarking 75% of the modernization defense budget for domestic procurement.
That's huge. That provides a guaranteed domestic order book that just wasn't there 5 years ago. It's a hedge against the global volatility.
A much-needed hedge.
Yeah.
And then globally, the big OEMs are actively trying to diversify. They see India as the crucial China plus one alternative.
And that's a strategic necessity now, not just a preference.
Absolutely. I mean, the global supply chains learned the hard way.
Right.
You can't rely on just one manufacturing hub. There's a great example in the sources. Airbus is increasing its list of Indian suppliers from 50 to 120.
Wow.
That is a massive injection of opportunity as long as you have the right NADCAP certifications and that Tier 1 status.
Plus, there's just the general commercial recovery. Air travel is back, which means record aircraft order backlogs everywhere.
And to track all this, the sources point to 3 metrics to watch. Order book-to-bill ratio is backlog growing faster than delivery.
Yeah.
Capacity utilization, they want to be at 85 to 90%.
Yeah.
And asset turnover.
Okay, so that's the macro picture. Let's get back to our 3 surgeons. This is where the analogy really helps us understand the different moats of Azad, Rossell, and Unimech.
Let's start with Azad Engineering. If the jet engine is the patient, Azad is providing the critical artificial heart valve. Their specialization is intense. Rotating 3D airfoils, engine subassemblies. Their moat is that deep institutional knowledge of handling exotic alloys at extreme temperatures. We're talking over 1,400 degrees Celsius. They are a pure Tier 1 play, almost all exports.
Then there's Rossell, Texas. What's their role?
They're the nervous system of the aircraft.
The nervous system.
Rossell is a pure play Tier 1 supplier. They focus on electrical wiring interconnection systems, or EWIS, and system integration. Essentially all the complex internal wiring and sensing.
So their moat isn't about extreme heat and metallurgy.
No, it's more about compliance and integration. Their advantage is in their supply chain. Specifically, being able to source specialized sensors from ITAR-compliant vendors. That means they meet strict U.S. military export rules.
Which lets them plug into major U.S. defense programs.
Which is why 80% of their revenue comes from the U.S. And finally, you have Unimech Aerospace. They provide the high-precision surgical tools.
A narrower niche, then.
Very. They're a high-multi-gun aero tooling specialist. Tooling is about 75% of their revenue. Their big advantage is their status as a green channel partner with the global OEMs.
Green channel, what does that mean in practice?
It means they're pre-certified, they're trusted. They can essentially bypass a lot of the repetitive quality inspection cycles. It's a massive time and cost moat. And they're leveraging that now to ramp up their own internal capacity to cut down on subcontracting.
Which falls right to the bottom line. Okay, that sets the stage perfectly for the financial comparison. We have to apply that working capital test because we already said that the cash conversion cycle is the single biggest risk.
And this is where the divergence is just shocking. If you're listening, you really need to pay attention to these numbers because they dictate everything.
So who's the most efficient? The one best positioned to grow without running out of cash?
That would be Unimech Aerospace. They have a remarkable CCC of just 101 days.
101, okay.
They turn their cash over 3 times faster than their competitors.
And what about Azad?
Azad Engineering is at a higher risk level, you could say, a persistent 287-day cycle. They are sacrificing that cash velocity for the scale and complexity of their contracts.
Okay, but then we get to Rossell, Texas.
Yep.
We have to pause on this number. Their CCC is at an extreme risk level of 607 days.
607 days. It's not just inefficient. It means they are effectively running with negative free cash flow because of that massive lockup.
That just raises so many questions. If they're so deeply embedded in these flagship U.S. military programs, why aren't the contracts protecting them from that kind of cash crunch?
It's a fantastic question. It suggests either a fundamental flaw in how they negotiate their contracts or a serious deficiency in their supply chain management. Something isn't working.
The difference is startling. Okay, let's run a couple of scenarios. Scenario one, the global OEM shift to China plus one. Which of our three surgeons wins there?
Well, the sources seem to favor Azad engineering
And why is that?
because their technical moat producing those specialized rotating airfoils is the hardest thing to replicate. It's easier to find someone to build wiring systems like Rossell's or even tooling like Unimech's, but that institutional knowledge for forging components that survive 1400-degree heat, that's unique.
So Azad is the structural play for that global diversification push. Got it. Now let's pivot. Scenario two, domestic growth, specifically the Indian government's nuclear power expansion. Who profits most there?
This one creates the most potential for Unimech.
Because tooling is transferable.
Highly transferable. Their expertise in high-precision tooling applies directly to the energy and nuclear sectors. The sources note they're being really aggressive here, with bids in for over 800 crores worth of the projects. If those convert, they've successfully diversified away from volatile aero exports into a stable domestic anchor business.
So after all that, what's the key lesson for us trying to navigate this sector?
I think it's that this whole sector is defined by a powerful tension. You have these massive technical barriers, the moat, right? But that's set against this significant, potentially debilitating financial volatility, that long, draining cash conversion cycle.
Absolutely. So when you're evaluating these firms, you have to look past the top line growth and those amazing margins. You have to check the order book visibility, like Azad has 12 times revenue visibility, but weigh that against the drag of working capital, which is just crippling a specialist like Rossell.
The cash conversation matters more than the contract size.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sources mention technological disruption as a key long-term risk. I mean, what happens to all this when additive manufacturing, 3D printing really matures?
That is the perfect question to end on.
It seems like it poses a real long-term threat to a traditional tooling firm like Unimech, whose entire moat is based on being the efficient provider of these precision tools.
It raises a very important question. Can their process-intensive moat really withstand an era of rapid digital fabrication, where designs can be printed instead of machined?
Something you should definitely explore next. A fascinating puzzle.
Indeed.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember, this isn't financial advice, and since we utilize AI, always verify the data yourself. See you next time. Welcome to Analyst Estimate. We bridge the gap between Wall Street and Main Street by breaking down complex investment research so you don't have